The new year has arrived, and it's time to talk about prophecies for the upcoming year. Recently, the world has witnessed countless upheavals. Prominent contemporary prophets like Craig Hamilton Parker and Brandon Biggs have steadfastly spoken about events that will shake the world to its core, some of which align with the dreams of Tasuki, the author of a famous prophetic manga. The future I foresee revolves around the theme of prophecies. Today, we will focus on crucial matters for humanity: a new world war, future scenarios of global powers, a global pandemic, and humanity's destiny. So what exactly are these? Let us delve into these major prophecies that will cause the world to tremble. Previously, when discussing Brandon Biggs's prophecies, we touched upon his chilling prediction of a global economic collapse, analyzing factors behind the financial disasters of 1929 and 2008. While such a scenario does not exist at present, one unaddressed risk is a world war, which could potentially trigger a global economic recession. Since the end of World War II, people have been anxious about when World War III might erupt, especially during the Cold War period between the two major military blocs, the US and the Soviet Union. People lived in constant fear of a nuclear bomb falling from the sky, wiping everything out while they slept. Books themed on the Third World War occasionally emerge and often become global bestsellers. John Hogue, an expert on Nostradamus and other Western prophets, states that many Western seers, including Nostradamus, have predicted that humanity would face three global wars starting in the 20th century. He believes that World War III is indeed plausible, and that the longer the time since World War II ended, the closer humanity gets to the countdown for the Third World War. However, the timing and method of its outbreak are hard to predict. After analyzing these prophecies, Hogue concludes that World War III is most likely to occur after another confrontation between Russia and the US, such as a new Cold War, with the trigger possibly being a conflict in the Middle East. In many of Nostradamus's prophetic verses, terms like anti-Christian, heretics, and Arabs are repeated. Based on the history of conflicts between Islam and Christianity, Hogue speculates that tensions between Israel and Iran could ignite the next world war. A direct confrontation between the US and Russia could escalate the conflict, ultimately leading to a global war. Judging by the current situation, however, the focal point of the conflict is not the Middle East but Ukraine. Behind each nation, Ukraine and Russia, lies a struggle between the US and its Western allies and Russia and its allies. During the war, Russia has progressively drawn its allies into the conflict. For example, confirmed reports indicate that North Korea sent troops to Russia's Kursk region for combat. Cuba has also been mobilized to Russia, while China has consistently emphasized its back-to-back alliance with Russia, exporting raw materials and military components under the guise of civilian trade. Iran, a longtime reliable ally of Russia, has reportedly supplied numerous drones to Russia. Furthermore, other regional powers like Brazil and India maintain good relations with Russia. During the conflict, they have expanded trade with Russia and used ruble payments to alleviate Russia's inability to access the US dollar. As a result, the Russia-Ukraine war has, in effect, already involved numerous countries worldwide. If it spirals out of control and escalates further, it could evolve into a global war, potentially even a nuclear war. In November 2024, there were dangerous signs of escalation. President Biden relaxed restrictions on the use of US-manufactured tactical missiles by Ukraine, allowing Ukraine to use these weapons to attack deep within Russian territory. In response, Putin launched medium-range missiles at Ukraine, with reports of intercontinental ballistic missiles being fired, albeit without nuclear warheads. This situation underscores a critical challenge for Donald Trump, upon assuming office in 2025, to enforce a ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine while preventing the conflict from escalating into a world war. Meanwhile, tensions remain high in the Middle East throughout 2024, with Israel frequently clashing with Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran. According to Host's analysis, the factors leading to a world war have yet to be eliminated. Additionally, British prophet Parker, often called the New Nostradamus, stated during meditation that he envisioned May 2025 as a time when the Russia-Ukraine war would become even more intense. He foresaw Ukrainian drones attacking Russian military facilities and oil refineries, with flames spreading everywhere and the air filled with the smell of burning fuel. Parker, who accurately predicted the outbreak of the Russia-Ukraine war, stated that if this prophecy proves true again, humanity could face a globally terrifying event within 1 to 2 months after his video aired. Parker further predicted that while Trump believes negotiations to end the war will be swift, reaching a peace agreement acceptable to both sides will be challenging. He estimated that such an agreement could only be achieved by late 2025 under Trump's mediation. According to Parker, the final outcome would see Russia retaining a narrow strip of eastern Ukraine as a demilitarized corridor between the two nations, much smaller than the area currently under Putin's control. This corridor would extend southward to Crimea, allowing Russia direct access to its naval base there. Meanwhile, Ukraine would reclaim part of Crimea, receive compensation from Russia, but fail to join NATO as desired. This scenario would allow Putin to achieve part of his war objectives, a minor victory that could be celebrated in domestic media to consolidate his power. In summary, Parker predicts that the Russia-Ukraine war will not escalate into World War III. However, in his vision, one puzzling element emerged. U.S. troops stationed in Europe began withdrawing shortly after the Russia-Ukraine war subsided. Following this, Russia engaged in a conflict with another nation. As of now, Parker cannot ascertain the scale of this future war, jokingly referring to it as Russia-Ukraine War Part 2. Parker also foresaw conflicts in the Middle East. He predicted that in 2025, Israel would persist in its efforts to destroy Iran's nuclear facilities. Ultimately, Israel succeeded in obliterating Iran's nuclear infrastructure. Parker attributed this success to several factors. First, Israeli intelligence conducted a cyber attack, temporarily crippling Iran's network systems. Subsequently, Israeli fighter jets launched from a nearby location to bomb Iran's underground uranium enrichment facilities. Previously, Parker had described a vision of future Middle Eastern conflicts. He said he had seen during meditation Israeli pilots being forced to eject because their military bases were too far from Iran, and their aircraft couldn't return due to insufficient fuel. However, this time was different. The mission seemed to have been completed successfully, and the pilots returned without any losses. Furthermore, Parker saw many drones participating in the operation. These drones appeared to have taken off from a carrier stationed offshore, striking Iranian facilities. Parker speculated that this scene might indicate U.S. support for Israel, allowing Israeli fighter jets to launch from American aircraft carriers in the Persian Gulf to attack Iran's uranium enrichment plants. With Trump's strong support for Israel, such an event seems plausible. Should this occur in early 2025, it would be a significant event that could send shockwaves across the globe. However, Parker stated that despite Iran's uranium enrichment facilities being bombed, this did not lead to a large-scale war. So why didn't Iran retaliate comprehensively? Parker explained that he saw Iran's supreme leader stepping down, possibly due to health reasons or other factors. The successor reached a peace agreement with Israel by the end of 2025. Parker also mentioned that in 2025, Israel expanded its borders, incorporating regions such as the Gaza Strip, the current West Bank, and the buffer zone in the north bordering Lebanon. By the end of 2025, Israel, Lebanon, and Iran seemed to have reached a certain level of peace. Nevertheless, conflicts in the Middle East did not entirely cease, but continued in a diminished capacity. Parker could not definitively say whether World War III would break out in 2025. He witnessed glimpses of both peace and new conflicts. Parker then shifted his attention to the Pacific region. He envisioned that after Trump assumed office, the United States would impose heavier tariffs on China. This led to a significant decline in China's exports, causing its economy to stagnate and then plunge into a severe recession. Parker predicted that China's economic downturn in 2025 would be even more severe than in 2024. Unemployment rates would soar, resulting in widespread social unrest. In fact, signs of unrest had already begun to surface in 2024. Parker forecasted that social instability in China would intensify, eventually leading to a revolution, with the possibility of an internal civil war breaking out. However, Parker saw that China appeared to undergo a peaceful transformation instead. The Chinese Communist Party, CCP, disappeared, replaced by a democratic society. Nevertheless, the form of governance would differ significantly from the current system, with several smaller democratic states coexisting. The Three Principles of the People, a political philosophy by Sun Yat-sen, would finally have the opportunity to be widely implemented in China. Parker predicted that the revolution would not plunge China into poverty. Instead, it would result in the emergence of several wealthy democratic nations on the land that is now China. Parker continued, stating that during meditation, he initially saw China resembling a muddy swamp, but then a group of women began dancing gracefully on it. He interpreted this as a sign of China undergoing a massive transformation and cultural awakening, breaking free from its previous stagnation. This cultural awakening, Parker suggested, could be linked to spiritual movements such as Falun Gong. In a video uploaded to YouTube on November 18, 2024, Hamilton Parker explicitly mentioned Falun Gong, stating that its influence in China was growing stronger and gaining more recognition in the West through artistic endeavors, particularly dance. Parker believed that the strong resistance from spiritual movements would gradually gain momentum in China by 2025, as the economic situation worsened. These changes, he said, would sow the seeds for a future where China transitions toward democracy, civilization, and prosperity. The dances Parker referred to were performed by a highly acclaimed international performing arts group, although he could not recall their exact name. Parker predicted that spiritual groups like Falun Gong would play a pivotal role in driving the Chinese Communist Party off the historical stage, paving the way for China to transition into a democratic and prosperous society. He also foresaw that Russia might deploy troops across its northern border to intervene in the changes occurring in China. However, the Chinese people would defeat the Russian forces and successfully implement reforms. Regarding how these changes would unfold, Parker stated that 2025 would mark the time when seeds of transformation were planted and began to sprout. Between late 2024 and late 2025, China's economy would experience a severe crisis, with repercussions felt globally. By 2026, these risks would fully erupt. Parker added that as the crisis in China escalates, Taiwan would come under immense pressure, as the Chinese government might attempt to divert domestic attention by creating external conflicts. A real crisis in the Taiwan Strait could occur at this moment. Parker predicted that a conflict in the Taiwan Strait might happen between 2024 and 2025, though he leaned toward 2026 as a more likely timeframe. This conflict could potentially lead to U.S. intervention, escalating into a hot war between the U.S. and China. From mainland China to the Taiwan Strait, 2025 could witness significant events that would send shockwaves across the globe. In November 2023, Parker had prophesied that Chinese Communist Party leader Xi Jinping would lose power in 2024, either due to health issues or internal power struggles. By late 2024, rumors about Xi's health and power struggles were rampant, aligning with Parker's earlier prophecy. In 2025, Parker reaffirmed that although Xi Jinping still held power, he would soon be ousted, and a new leadership would take his place. After discussing global political situations, Parker turned his focus to pandemics. Since 2020, humanity has been haunted by the nightmare of pandemics. Christian pastor Brandon Biggs, who accurately predicted Donald Trump's assassination attempt 4 months prior in 2024, shared a prophetic dream. In the dream, he was driving to a grocery store when the scene around him suddenly changed. The parking lot was filled with tents and single military-style beds, with people lying under white sheets. He realized these individuals had passed away. In the dream, he saw nurses and soldiers busy at work, wearing protective suits and gas masks. Entering the hospital, he found it overwhelmed, with insufficient doctors and military medical staff. Patients were on the verge of death. At that moment, he heard a voice saying that this was a new virus, far more terrifying than COVID-19. It was highly infectious and caused an even higher death toll. According to the divine voice, the virus originated in Europe and would spread globally, claiming 350 million lives. In his vision, Biggs also saw the number 30 appear on a map of the United States, possibly signifying up to 30 million American deaths due to this pandemic. Following this, a divine force showed Biggs another group of individuals. He observed that they were in a spiritual realm, dressed in white robes and emitting a bright white light. Their bodies were encased in a transparent, honey-like layer that radiated light extending over a meter. When a yellow mist approached them, it found no entry point and was swiftly eradicated by the white light. At this moment, a voice told Biggs that these were individuals chosen by divine forces in the future. Months after this experience, Biggs had another vivid dream. He saw that in the spring of a particular year, President Trump announced the arrival of a new virus in the United States. This virus had a much higher infection and mortality rate than COVID-19. With no available vaccine, the U.S. government was forced to implement a nationwide lockdown. Biggs saw the death toll rising so high that societal supply chains and production came to a halt. Goods were depleted, and the devastation was at least 10 times worse than that of COVID-19. In this dream, Biggs also witnessed a storm. A divine voice revealed that COVID-19 was merely the storm's periphery, while the new virus would bring humanity deeper into its heart. However, humanity had not yet reached the storm's eye. This pandemic, described as unprecedented in history, was even more catastrophic than the Black Death of the 14th century. Overwhelmed by fear, Biggs cried in his dream. Upon waking, he found news reports that mirrored the events he had dreamed of, making him feel as if his visions were becoming reality. Biggs interpreted these dreams as divine warnings, urging humanity to awaken spiritually. Only by returning to the divine could people become chosen and shielded from this horrifying pandemic. According to him, the pandemic could arrive in the spring of any year when Trump is in power, with the earliest possibility being spring 2025 and the latest spring 2028. Should it occur in 2025, it would undoubtedly be a monumental event shaking humanity to its core. Beyond pandemics, the prophet Hor warned Japan of a major disaster occurring between January and July 2025. In a July 2024 prophecy, he described seeing a dark cloud covering the skies between Japan and the United States, causing abnormal movements in the Earth's tectonic plates. This could potentially lead to the eruption of Mount Fuji. Tsuki, a Japanese manga artist, also documented a prophetic dream in his work, The Future I See, foretelling a significant geological shift between Japan and the Philippines. This included undersea tectonic shifts and tsunamis resulting in unprecedented devastation in Japan, with July 2025 being a likely timeframe. British prophet Parker believed that humanity had reached a critical juncture requiring a major turning point. He predicted that a spiritual leader would emerge, akin to a superhero, to guide humanity towards spiritual awakening. When asked about this leader's identity, Parker described them as a sage from the East. Previously, discussions of the 47th figure in Tuibei 2, an ancient Chinese prophetic text, also predicted the appearance of a sage from the East. The text includes a phrase that translates to, "The purple star shines brightly," leading later generations to refer to this figure as the Purple Star Sage. It is possible that both ancient and modern prophets are referring to the same individual. Parker emphasized that every person must awaken individually. This is a moment for spiritual enlightenment and returning to the divine. Although humanity must endure significant hardships, as foretold in these prophecies, the future remains bright. Humanity will emerge from the dark Kali Yuga era and enter a new golden age. Some say these prophecies are becoming increasingly alarming. Could 2025 indeed represent the darkness before dawn? What are your thoughts? Please share your opinions in the comments section below. That concludes today's discussion. If you find this video or the content on Mysteries of Humanity valuable, please share it with a friend to explore further.
Thank you very much. Goodbye and see you next time.